Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm sharing my 10 cards 1 kit video using the May Love From Lizi card kit, and I took inspiration from the Ephemera in the card kit for all 10 of my cards. For the first card I'm going to start by doing some stenciling on the back of one of the journaling cards. I don't really use these kinds of journaling cards as they're intended to be used, so I thought by flipping it over I could just use it as a panel and get some use out of it this way. I'm using a chevron stencil from my stash. You could use any stencil for this technique, and I'm going to be stenciling over it with Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide. Distress Oxides show up really nicely on dark cardstock like this craft cardstock, and the Tumbled Glass is a nice pale blue. So I'll carefully lift up my stencil to make sure that I have it exactly how I want it, and then I've moved the stencil onto my card base. I've masked off the lower portion of my card base with some post-it tape, and I'm ink blending through the stencil again with the Tumbled Glass, and I'm fading it out to white as I get further away from the centre. When I was positioning the stencil into place, I did lay my craft piece in first so I could work out exactly where the stencil needed to be to make sure that the pattern would be continuous. Having completed all the stenciling, I adhered the craft panel into place and stamped the Hello sentiment from the stamp set on top of it with some Versafine Onyx black ink. I then have two of the cactus or succulent ephemera pieces, and I have popped them up on foam tape onto that craft panel. Then as a final touch, I'm going to add some Nouveau drops, and these are Sea Breeze Nouveau drops, which are a translucent blue, and I thought that went well with the Tumbled Glass that I had used, and that will complete my first card. For card number 2, I went a bit busier, and I'm using the large camera ephemera as well as the word shine, and I'm going to start by creating my background. For the background, I'm using the largest camera that came in the stamp set. I'm going to mask off the strap on the camera, and I'm going to repeatedly stamp this across my purple card base with embossing ink. I have treated my card base very well with my anti-static powder tool, so I'm going to repeatedly stamp it to create a pattern all across the background of my card. And whilst I'm doing that, I'll just very quickly say that this card kit is now sold out. I believe the June card kit is already sold out as well, so if you have missed out on the card kits, one way to make sure you don't miss out on them is to subscribe, and I will have all the subscription information in the description box down below. Even though this card kit is sold out, I have been able to find some of the elements of the kit separately, and again I will have links to everything I was able to find down below. They are all affiliate links, so if you purchase with those links it will be no extra cost for you, but it will provide me a small kickback which helps to support the channel and my crafting. Going back to the card, once I had completed my stamping on the background of the card, I coated the entire panel with Rainbow Wishes embossing powder, which is a very pretty embossing powder, and you can see here the wonderful shine it gives once it is melted. I did leave something heavy on it for a while to help flatten it back out, because of course heating the whole card base does cause some warping, so putting something heavy on it will help to flatten it again. I will then take both of my ephemera pieces, again I'm using the large camera piece and the word shine, and I have placed foam tape all over the back of both of these, and I'm just going to align them on my card base and press them into place. And that will complete my second card, which is definitely very shiny. Card number 3 is inspired by the large floral cluster, and I decided I would use the banner ephemera piece as well that says seriously. And I'm going to be using a card base that I have made out of the teal cardstock that came in the kit. I decided to add some interest to the card base by adding scored lines across it. So I've placed the card base into my paper trimmer, which has a score blade option. You could also use a scoreboard if that's what you have, and I scored at 1/4 inch intervals all the way down my card. Then I'm just going to attach together the floral cluster and the banner. At first I just kind of temporarily taped them into place on my card base using some washi tape, and then I'm going to be using some of the white stickers from the sticker set. There are lots of pages of stickers, so you could choose from a variety of different floral stickers, but as I wanted these to kind of fade into the background and the ephemera to still be the focal point, I thought the white ones would work well. So at first I'm just trying to slip them in under and behind the floral arrangement, but once I got to the second one I realised it was a bit difficult with it not actually tacked down, so instead I put foam tape again on the back of my ephemera pieces and attached them to the card base so that they were nice and secure. And then I continued with using my reverse tweezers to help me slip those stickers into place just to fill out that arrangement a bit more and add a bit more interest to it. And I just went through the sticker sheets, pulling out different leaves and flowers of those white stickers and seeing which ones I thought would work best and where I wanted to place them, and just playing until I was happy with it. And that completed card number 3. For my fourth card, I decided I would use the heart ephemera pieces, and I'm also going to pull in one of the puffy heart ephemera pieces as well. And I thought I would use some pattern papers and a sketch for this card. So I'm using a Sketch Saturday sketch, and you can see the picture of the sketch I'm using up in the top left hand corner. I needed a scallop edge on the bottom of my largest panel of pattern paper, but I don't actually have a straight scalloped edge die. I have wave ones and I have this corner one, so I decided to try and kind of piece together the corner one and make that work for me, and I did manage to get it to work. There is one place where it overlapped that it didn't quite cut perfectly, but I think it's not too noticeable. So I trimmed down the other elements of my sketch using the pattern papers that I had picked out from the pattern papers that came in the kit, and I'm going to use Tombow Monomalte liquid glue to adhere those all together. Again, I've used a teal card base as I thought that went well with the other colours I'd chosen. I will just add a little snippet at the top of the card where the banner piece is going to be, just because this will make it more level and help it to adhere into place better. I'm using another of the lined journaling card pieces as my focal square for the card, and I chose the Love Sentiment sticker for my sentiment and added that onto one of the lines, and then adhered the ephemera pieces into place towards the top left of that journaling square, and that completed card number 4. Moving on to card number 5, I'm again using one of the journaling pieces. This one is kind of a rounded bottom, almost like a pocket shape, and I've picked out the flower and leaf ephemera pieces. These were all separate pieces as compared to the previous floral arrangement one I used for card 3. So I adhered those together in the arrangement I wanted and adhered them to the top of that journaling card piece. And then I used the Hello sentiment again and stamped that onto that piece. I'm going to use some pattern papers here again, and I'm using a black card base, so I thought I would mat my pink pattern paper onto black to help tie it all together. This pink pattern paper is actually a bit narrower than I need. It doesn't reach all the way across the card base, but I will just snip it in half and line it up and hide the break behind my arrangement when I adhere everything together, and nobody will know any difference. To save paper during my matting, I put glue along the very edge of the pink panel and then adhered it to the edge of the black panel and then trimmed it away, rather than matting it on a full piece of paper, and that just makes it slightly lighter weight and wastes less paper and is just more efficient, I find. So once I have all my elements assembled, I will adhere the background panel into place very carefully. And making sure it's lined up, I will press it down, and then I'm going to use my T-square ruler to help me with the pink panel, because as I said, I've split it into 2 pieces and I want to make sure they are properly aligned. And here you can see there is that very small gap between them, but once I put that focal piece on top, you won't know that they are not one piece. Another option, rather than matting this on the black, would be to use some black peel-off, so you could also do that. I felt that adding the black in some way just helped to tie it all in together, because there's the black around the card and then there's the black in the focal piece as well. And again, I'm using my Tumbled Monomulti liquid glue to adhere those panels into place, and I'm going to use the same liquid glue to adhere my focal panel into place flat to my card base. And that completes card number 5. For card number 6, I'm going to use the large craft flower, which comes in pieces, so you have the outline and then the inner pieces. I've attached the inner pieces to some washi tape to hold them together in the correct arrangement, so they're all positioned how they should be in regards to one another. And then I'm doing some ink blending with Distress Oxides. I'm using Festive Berries and I'm putting that into the darkest areas of my flower, fading that out to Worn Lipstick, and then finally I'm switching it up and bringing in some Wild Honey as my third colour. And this gives a kind of sunrisey colour, which I thought feels quite summery. I have sped this ink blending up quite a lot because it took me a little while to do. And I went back over for a second layer of all the colours just to build them up even more and make them nice and intense. My original plan here had been to use the inner portions of the flower for one card and then I would use the outline for another card, but I didn't entirely like how it looked with just the inner portions on the card base, so I did end up using both pieces together instead. You could also adhere the outer portions onto another piece of card and cut around them, and then you would have that outline. Either way you like to do it, just find what works best for you. For my card base, I am again using a black card base, and I added some interest to it by embossing it with an embossing folder that just has a subtle design to it. It gives a little bit of texture, and I have added a sentiment from one of the sticker sheets, and that will complete card number 6. Next is card number 7, and I really wanted to use this wreath piece that was one of the ephemera pieces. I'm going to use a circle die of about the same size to cut away a circle from the pattern paper panel that I'm using for my background, because that way the card base will be seen through the wreath rather than seeing the pattern paper through the wreath. I just preferred the look of that. Initially, I'd been thinking of making this into a shaker card, but I decided against it in the end and just left it as a flat card instead. I pulled in the cute little bunny ephemera piece and I'm going to have him peeking through the wreath. Once I had the wreath and the bunny in position on my card base, I held them in place with some washi tape, turned everything over and put double-sided tape all over the back of the pattern paper panel and the wreath and the bunny, and that way they were all held in place together. And then I flipped them back over and adhered them onto my yellow card base. I did add a touch of glue pen under the front legs of the rabbit just to help hold those into place. Then I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to help me get my sentiment in position, and I used one of the black sentiment stickers, and this one says "How cute," which I thought was appropriate with that rabbit. In hindsight, it would have been easier to put the sentiment before adhering everything else down, because I did have to lift up the ears of the rabbit and also the top of that H to get them slid into place properly, and it would have been easier if I'd done that first, but it still worked, so it wasn't too difficult. So that finishes card number 7. Moving on to card number 8, we're going from a very cute card to a much more elegant card. I'm using the larger of the craft and gold floral arrangements, and I'm going to use a purple card base because purple and gold go beautifully together. I have a gold pen and my T-square ruler, and I'm going to draw a frame onto my purple card base. Just a very simple frame. I think I'm about ½ inch in. Actually, I think the left hand side ended up not the same width as the other 3 sides, but luckily with the arrangement in place it's not quite so obvious that I made that mistake. But it's about ½ inch in all the way around. Once I had the frame drawn, I put some foam tape onto the back of that focal element and popped it into place over that bottom left corner. I didn't press it down immediately as I wanted to get my sentiment sticker into place and make sure that everything was lined up nicely. For the sentiment sticker, I'm also going with some nice gold because I really wanted the colour scheme here to be that purple and gold, and the little bits of craft. So having got the sentiment sticker into place, I was able to adjust the arrangement and make sure that was how I wanted it, and I felt I needed a little bit something extra. So I went back to my sticker sheet and I pulled out 3 of the gold leaf shaped stickers, and I'm going to put them on each of the corners. And you can imagine there's one under the bottom left corner as well, but of course I didn't actually need to put one there because it's hidden. And these leaves aren't all the same size. I think you probably could get 3 of the same size from the sticker sheet, but I quite liked the variation between them. And once I have them in place, that will complete my 8th card, which has some really pretty shine to it and is very nice and elegant. Moving on to card number 9, I'm finally going to be using some of the Sway peel-offs. I had tried using them on a couple of my other cards, but they never quite fit, and I knew I really wanted to use them, so I thought I'd give them a go on this card. It took me a little while to work out exactly how I wanted to use them. At first I was trying to make a pattern with them, and then I thought maybe I'd make a frame just slightly inset, but then in the end I decided to just edge the card all the way around with the peel-offs. I ended up liking how that looked, so that's what I went with. I think I used the widest of the peel-offs for this, but depending on the look you're going for, any of the widths could work. And once I had them lined up, I trimmed off the overhanging pieces and I will put them back on the sheet for using later. I have another of the journaling cards to be my grounding panel for my cacti or succulents, similarly to what I did on the first card. And rather than using the back like I did on the first card, on this one I'm going to just trim away the words that are on the top of it, and then I'm going to attach the plants onto that panel. I decided it didn't look quite right directly on the yellow card base, so after some consideration I decided to bring in the circle that I'd cut out from the pattern paper on card number 7 and put that behind the plants, and I thought that just added enough interest to make it look nice and finished. I'm again going to use a sentiment sticker to add to my card, and I decided to use the word thanks, and the lines on the journaling piece really make it nice and easy to add that sentiment and make sure it's straight. Then I will adhere the circle onto the card base with some Tombow Monomalte liquid glue and make sure it's in the position I want it in comparison to my other elements before pressing it into place. Once I was happy with it, I then moved on to adhering my focal element, and I put foam tape on the back of this to pop it up and give it just a little bit more dimension, which helps it stand out nicely. And that will complete my 9th card. So there's just one more to go. And for my final card, I'm again going with a kind of elegant look. This one was quite quick and simple, intentionally, because my camera was dying. I really wanted to get it done before my camera did completely give up. So I have a black and white pattern paper panel, which I'm adhering to my white card base. I then am using the black glitter peel-offs, and these are the original pinstripe peel-offs rather than sways. And I'm using the narrowest one to edge all the way around my pattern paper panel. And this is my favourite way to use peel-offs, is edging panels. I then have another journaling card, and this one says Good Vibes. I managed to adhere it very slightly off centre, but never mind. I have this popped up on foam tape. And then I'm taking 3 of the cute little leather bows that came in the kit. These have foam adhesive already on the back of them, so they're very easy to stick into place. And I'm going to add all 3 of them onto the card base on that journaling card. And so I have a white one, a black one, and a gold one, which is all of the colours that I was using on this card, so that worked out very well. There's also, I think the other 3 that came in the kit were, I believe, brown, copper, and silver. That completes my 10th and final card. So I hope you enjoyed all of the cards. I had a lot of fun making them. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this kit, but once I got my hands on it and started looking through the ephemera, the ideas just started coming. I didn't actually do all of the ideas as I'd initially planned. I kind of changed some of them up, but I think that's part of the fun, is letting your creativity take you where it will. I would love to hear from you in the comments below which of these cards is your favourite, so please do let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button so that I know, and if you didn't, feel free to press the dislike button. You can subscribe to my channel by pressing my logo on screen. I have some more card kit videos coming very soon, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for those. There are also a couple of other videos on screen at the moment if you'd like to see something else from me straight away. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!